It's no question that the kind of medical treatment that one receives plays an important role in the quality and the length of life. It's also a fact that in many instances, a lot of people get sicker than they need to be or live shorter than they probably should because of the lack of medical treatment or access to medical care. Well, I'm happy today to be interviewing a young lady from an entity that provides free medical care in certain situations. That entity is the Macon Volunteer Clinic, and that person is none other than Miss Rita McCurdy, who is the executive director. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, and as I said, I'm so happy I got that call because what we are about is important information to the community that's going to make a difference. You know, I do Facebook and I do other social media, but I purport that social media can be utilized to address other kinds of problems in our community as it relates to the importance of information that will benefit some educational information, psychological information, spiritual information, civic information, and it goes on and on. So I encourage everybody, when you're posting, you know, let's post some positive stuff. We need to be positive about all the problems we're having in our community, and it's medically related one way or another with the shootings. You know, we had 3, you know, unfortunately last night. And so I'm happy that to just familiarize a resource that's available in our community that can assist us with medical problems, medicinal problems. I like to say that. I like the way it sounds. This is a call to action again.
Call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. This is Miss Rita McCurdy, McCurdy, and who's the executive director of Macon Volunteer Clinic. So we just want to start. Just give me a little bit about yourself.
Certainly, yes. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here and share more information about the volunteer clinic. I'm originally from Milledgeville. Grew up there, still have family there, yes. Spent some time in Alabama for a few years and then came back to Central Georgia in 2000 to work at Mercer at the School of Medicine, and just really rediscovered Central Georgia and Macon, and have just been thrilled to be a part of the community here since then.
We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about Macon Volunteer Clinic. What does that mean? Macon Volunteer Clinic?
You know, the name can be a little bit confusing at first, but it really says it all, that we're a free clinic and all of our health care is provided from volunteers from around the community. So these are licensed professional physicians, dentists, nurses, dental hygienists, all manner of health professionals come together.
You telling me that the medical community, all of these people and all with all that expertise, volunteers?
Absolutely, yes. That's the heart of what we do, and that's
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out. You know,
yes.
You know that they would do that. So you talked about several different professions and several different entities. So let's first start with those services that you provide.
Sure, happy to. We take care of patients from head to toe. And I will go back and say that our mission is focused on uninsured adults who live in Bibb County and who work, who they have some kind of employment. But for those folks, we provide everything from primary care to dental care, eye care, labs, dermatology, gynecology, MRIs, mental health counseling, you name it. We either provide it on site or we can get it for them, again, at no cost to them whatsoever through our volunteer network.
Well, I noticed, and I was going to ask you about that. So you can even get mental health counseling through Macon Volunteer.
Yes, that's correct. We are fortunate to have partnerships with several local schools, including Mercer and their marriage and family therapy program, and some other entities that help us provide mental health counseling one-on-one to our patients on site. And of course, as you can imagine, we do serve patients on the lower end of the income scale, and with that comes a lot of anxiety and depression and just a lot of, they have all the pressures of life, plus potentially not being able to pay for their food that week. So it comes with a lot of mental health issues, so we're glad to be able to provide that service also.
Okay, now, but let's get it clear, because I know that there are a lot of people who are interested in this. Let's talk a little bit about the requirements to receive services from Macon Volunteer Clinic.
Yes, there are certain requirements. As I said, we are, our mission is to focus on working uninsured adults. So to be accepted as a patient at the clinic, you can't have any kind of insurance. You can't have Medicaid or VA or anything. And you have to document that you work and that you've filed your taxes in the past year. You have to document that you have a certain level of income, up to 200% of the federal income guidelines. So once you bring in paperwork, and we would tell you exactly what's required for that, once you bring that in, we have a volunteer sit with you, and if you're accepted as a patient, usually we can get you in for a medical appointment in the next couple of days.
Wow. Now, let's kind of profile the typical person who, and I'm thinking, because there are a lot of jobs in this community, that, pay, say minimum wage, and then they're like if you talk some of the fast food chains, that's a job, right? That's income, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and so if in fact you work a job that does not provide these benefits, then they can come to you and...
Yes, that's a perfect example. We have so many employees here in Bibb County, as you said, that they're either part-time or they're working for a place or a company or a business that doesn't provide health insurance to them, and they have no other way to access health insurance. So those folks are absolutely eligible, and that is our typical patient. Usually a lot of folks in the service industry, maybe a housekeeper or even a daycare worker, working hard, but they just don't have access to health insurance. So they're in need of that. And I will say our typical patient, most of our patients are females and are many of them single parents or helping raise grandchildren as well. So that's primarily who we see, are folks who are making $25,000, $30,000 a year or less, trying to raise children on that, and that just doesn't go very far.
Now you got to have a real job, though. You can't. No, what I mean by that is that you can't be like on government assistance.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to have, and we're certainly flexible. We recognize that there are all kinds of employment. We have many patients who are self-employed as hairstylists, or even with a lawn mowing business, they work regularly. So again, we're flexible with that, but you do have to have some kind of earned income where you're regularly out there working.
The key word is earned.
Earned income. That's correct.
That's
yes.
the key word for that. Well, that's very, very important. We'll talk about how the contact information. But let's talk a little about the volunteers. I think that that they ought to be recognized. I don't know whether you can call names, but let's talk generally about all of those different areas. Like audiologists, if you got one, and mental health counselors and people of that nature. Talk about the full gamut of those people who volunteer at the clinic.
Yes, I'd love to share about that. Right now we have over 200 volunteers who are cycling in and out of the clinic on a given week, or maybe volunteering once a month or once a quarter. But those folks include, as I said, it can be a physician, a nurse, a lab tech. We have dietary counselors, dietitians who come in.
Are you trying to tell me something?
Not at all, not at all. But if you were a patient and wanted to avail yourself of that service, you could. We have many specialists. We have gynecologists, dermatologists, just really the whole gamut, the healthcare spectrum. And off-site, we have wonderful partners at Navicent and Coliseum and specialists who see our folks there, who help them get their x-rays and MRIs and lab work done. So really...
So I was going to ask you that. So as a part of this volunteering mechanism, then you've got a relationship with the major medical facilities in the community. Because I was wondering about that. If, in fact, somebody needed to go to the hospital or needed some kind of treatment at one of the facilities, then what would be the case with that?
Right. We do have Navicent, Coliseum, other healthcare providers as partners. Once folks are our patients, we can see them for pretty much any kind of primary care need, plus all the other things I mentioned, and some outpatient surgery through a partnership with Navicent. So like hernia repair or bladder stone removal. We had a patient who, middle-aged fella, suffered with a terrible bladder stone and went repeatedly to the ER for pain medicine over months and months. But really, that's all that could be done for him. So we were able, through our partnership with Navicent, to provide outpatient surgery for him. And the surgery folks, plus our volunteers, came in early. They come in early on a Sunday morning to the hospital and perform those surgeries for us. So we are often able to help with that. We cannot help with an inpatient stay. So if you need to stay in the hospital for some reason or have an ER visit, we wouldn't be able to help with all those things. But our goal is to keep you out of the hospital so that you don't need those things.
So I guess that's where the dietary. So
Right.
what if one did not have insurance, but was interested in maybe just visiting from a preventive measure? Say to come get a checkup.
Sure.
How about that?
Yes.
How about that?
That is so important, and that's the cornerstone of what we start with is a physical and some routine lab work, because so many of our folks here, we are at risk for diabetes, and you said it very well earlier, shorter life expectancy. Macon has one of the worst life expectancies in the country. We are
Really?
losing years of life, yes, for our citizens. The average citizen lives probably about 5 years less here than they do in a comparable county with better health outcomes. So when you think about the years of life that are just being cut off, we are very conscious of preventive medicine. We bring folks in and want to address those risk factors like obesity, hypertension, dietary issues. We address all of that with our patients so that they can get healthier.
Okay, now, so how hard is it to be seen? Because there are several, I'm sure there are literally thousands of individuals. This is a call to action.
Call to action.
I'm so involved in it till I'm having this conversation with Miss Rita McCurdy, who is the executive director of Macon Volunteer Clinic, and she's telling us this phenomenal story about a service that's extremely important to our community, which is the provision of health care under certain circumstances to individuals in our community who need it and who want to see if they need it or who are trying not to need it. So that's very important. I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, we, in answer to your
You
question.
remember what you were going to say? You better.
I think I do. We'll see.
You're
We'll see
better
where
than
the
I am,
answer
I
ends
tell you.
up. But, in answer to how quickly we can see folks, it's usually
That's the
usually
question.
very quickly. And as you said, we have thousands. Estimates are about 6,000 folks here in Macon who would qualify for our services.
Wow.
Right now, we're seeing between 600 and 700 of them. So we would love to see more. I know there is so much need out there. But we do have a screening process for folks to make sure they're eligible, because we are required by the state of Georgia to look at certain paperwork and make sure folks qualify for these services.
Is this funded through the state?
We do not receive any federal or state funding, no. Our our fortunate circumstance is that the state of Georgia provides medical liability protection for our volunteers.
Okay.
That's where that comes in. So they don't have to worry about it.
Because they wouldn't come in if they didn't have
They
that
need protection.
liability.
That's
I
right.
understand that very
Yes,
well.
that's just a given now. So the state of Georgia covers them because they're a licensed provider volunteering their time with us. They don't have to worry about being sued or malpractice as a provider with us. So once we get past the screening process, we screen folks every Wednesday afternoon, and they can make an appointment with us, which they should do first for that time. But if they can't come on Wednesday afternoons, we are flexible. We'll see them pretty much whenever they can come. We'll get that paperwork in order, get them certified as a patient with us, and then, as I said, within a matter of a few days, we'll get them in the door to see a physician at no cost to them.
Okay, just right off the bat, and I know there are ways to find out the information, but just in case somebody's chomping at the bits, to come see you,
Sure.
come to the clinic. Just what's the paperwork?
The paperwork is, it's a little bit of paperwork gathering. It would take a little bit for me to do it, but it's your last month's worth of payroll slips. So hopefully folks have those or can get a copy from their employer, of course, if they don't.
For the month, for their
last month. That's
Okay,
right.
yeah.
So the last 4 weeks preceding. They also need a copy of their 1040, their U.S. tax return 1040. That, if they're not able to provide that, there are some workarounds, and then of course the local IRS office here in Macon can help them get a free copy of that as well, I believe. So that can be a little bit challenging. In terms of myself, it would be remembering where I filed that 1040 from last year and going up to my upstairs filing cabinet and trying to retrieve it. So it takes a little bit of doing, but once you have that paperwork plus your Social Security card, and a letter from your employer that says you're not eligible for insurance if you have an employer, if you're not self-employed. So once you have those things in place, you're done, and we can see you for free for pretty much anything that ails you. So it's a little bit of paperwork. Once we get past that,
But it's worth it.
It is
You
so
only got
worth
one
it.
body.
Oh my gosh!
And we don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want to be
No.
one of those statistics.
No.
When I don't want. I'm going to live those 5 years, and I'm sure everybody out
That's
there.
right. That's right.
Does too. Well, let me
Yeah.
ask you this. Now, so if a person is sick and has worked and is unable to work because he or she is ill, then would they qualify if they don't have? I know that's a tough question,
It
but
is.
you're going to have
Yes.
some people who are going to ask you that question. Because it's kind of sad. It really is very sad that and I just praise the clinic, but there are people out there who really need medicine. But you can't serve you can't serve them all. I understand that.
Right.
So they need to be gainfully employed currently.
There needs to be, yes, unless they're on a leave of absence or, they do need to have some current employment, some employer that says, yes, even if they're out for a few weeks on sick leave or whatever, then they could come back. So, but I fully recognize, there are so many folks who they would work if they felt better, but you don't have health insurance to feel better. So it's a terrible cycle for a lot of our folks here in Bibb County.
Yeah.
I will say I was remiss in not mentioning we have a very active prescription medication program, and last year we gave out over $2 million in free non-narcotic prescription meds. So folks who have diabetes, who have hypertension, we can get those medications for free for
So
them.
it seems to me that this would be a motivation, if you're ill, because you can always find something to do. You can always find some kind of job.
Right.
Even if it's part-time, but does it matter whether it's part-time?
It does not, no. We just want folks, they just need to be invested in their future and have some kind of employment.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we'll get them feeling
It's kind of
better.
like trying to get a loan,
Yeah.
you need $100,000. They said, well, now we going to loan you 80, and you need to put 20 in yourself. So, I mean, that's, I guess you can term that self-investment, which is really understood. Well, how are you funded? May I ask?
That's a great question, and that's something we always need help with. We don't get any federal or
Are you a
state
501?
funding. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so any contribution to us is tax deductible. We are blessed with a lot of grants from local foundations and also national foundations as well. We have some great donors who give gifts to us on a regular basis, but we don't charge any fees and we don't get any reimbursement for the services we provide. It's not like we're getting insurance company reimbursement or Medicaid reimbursement. We're not getting any of that. So we are totally dependent on the generosity of this community.
Okay, now what about if there are some doctors out there who are retired, or some nurses, or some dental hygienists, or some counselors, or what, or maybe who are not retired? But I mean, one thing that I've discovered, although it's kind of overlooked, people still have a heart, and people still want to help. You know, so what about the need for more medical? Now, wait a minute. Let me ask you this. Are there any needs for volunteers other than medical?
Yes, thank you for asking that, because a lot of folks will assume, you know, I'm not a physician, I'm not a nurse, so what can I do? There are so many things we need help with, as you can imagine. We have a lot of administrative volunteers, just front desk folks answering the phone or stuffing envelopes. We have a small garden that we always need help taking care of for anybody with a green thumb. We need our windows washed. We need our carpets cleaned. We have a regular need for office supplies and just, you know, toilet paper and paper towel and snacks for volunteers. All those things volunteers and donors will frequently bring to us, and that helps us just as much as a physician or a nurse. So everybody plays a role and can play a role with us.
That's very outstanding, and the same applies to professional volunteers. You still have room for that. Let me ask you this on the mental health element. You know, and I want to talk about that for a second. You know, I mean, last time I checked, and it might be the wrong statistic, you know more about this than I do, but most of us need some kind of counseling or mental help.
Yes.
You know, and it's strange that people will go to the doctor, you know, to take care of their body, but they won't go and take care of their mind, you know, and it's important. And I think that's one of the problems we have in our community is the need for mental health counseling in many instances. So talk a little bit about that element of your operation.
We are pleased to be able to provide some mental health counseling to folks. We have a very skilled interns, and then we've also had a new partnership with Hepzibah Behavioral Health here in town, and we're thrilled to be working with them to provide that on site. Because frankly, to your point, we have referred folks off site before, and partners in town like Mercer, their folks have seen our patients for mental health counseling, but there is still a little bit of a stigma, and so some of our folks, they would much rather just come to the clinic where nobody knows why they're there. They could be there for a dental visit or a physical visit or whatever, and then they just walk right over into the mental health counseling office and spend time there.
How long have you been in existence?
Macon Volunteer Clinic began in 2002 and opened our doors in 2003. Yeah, so we're about to celebrate our 15th year anniversary.
Wow, that's so very, very that's so very important that you did. I want to give a shout out to Pat Toppins, for calling me and hooking us up so we can
absolutely.
We can do this interview. So where's the office located?
The clinic is at 376 Avenue, and that's the corner of Ingleside and Rogers. So if you know where Ingleside Pizza is, on the left, that's usually a good landmark. If that's on your left, you keep going down Ingleside, there's a traffic light right there with a gas station, and we're right next to the gas station with the awning, blue awning, and would love to have folks come by or call us. Our phone number is 478-755-1110, or check our website at maconvolunteerclinic.org.
Okay, what about if somebody wanted to just, I know you're busy, but maybe there's some, let me ask you this. Do you have somebody who can go and talk to different groups, like churches and organizations and fraternities and
Yes.
sorority and,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
neighborhood
happy to.
watch group and all of that.
Yes.
So if an individual or an entity, rather, want to learn more about the clinic, then somebody could go out and that somebody is you.
It is often me, but we have a great staff. We do have a small staff in addition to our volunteers. So we have excellent volunteer coordinator and development person, and then even just volunteers who serve as ambassadors for us, who will go and to health fairs, man a booth in a health fair, or go speak to a church, go speak to Rotary or a church group.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
So I got a call yesterday about a health fair that's being held at Ebenezer real soon by the Omegas. So do you all put booths in health fairs?
We do. We are very pleased to be included. Usually whenever Navicent does a health fair, we are usually able to be there. But we are available, volunteers again, depending on their availability. But we're available on weekends and at other occasions. And if there's an opportunity for us to come and share about the clinic, we'd be happy
This
to
would be
do
like
that.
a community health fair.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd love to do that. We will make every effort to be there.
Well, I know you can't do them all.
Yeah.
But at least you do that.
We do.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have an expo on November the 14th, a holiday expo
Okay.
at the Tubman Museum from 6 to 10. And I would certainly extend to you an invitation to put a booth there. Although it's a commercial venture, what you're doing is so important to the community.
Thank
so I'll
you.
be more than willing to, if you could work it out mechanically, I'll be very, very happy to do that. So give us the location and the website and the phone number again.
Sure. It's 376 Rogers Avenue, and that's the corner of Rogers and Ingleside. Our phone number is 478-755-1110, and our website is www.maconvolunteerclinic.org.
Okay. So if you got a job and if you qualify income-wise, then there's no excuse.
That's
There's
correct.
no excuse for not visiting Macon Volunteer Clinic because we want to address. I know Ms. McCurdy does, and I do too. We want to work on that. You died 5 years earlier in Macon than you do in other communities. Just thank you so much. And
Thank
would you
you.
personally thank all of the volunteers,
will.
for what they do, because healthcare is important to the community. And you are making a measurable contribution to the community because they are not, except for spiritually, I think health is the most important element of living. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Ms. Rita McCurdy, Executive Director of Macon Volunteer Clinic. And if you have a need or you know somebody who has a need, be sure to check them out. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.